Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Dirt and the Divine. This is the podcast where we say what needs to be said. Today, I am really excited and honored to have one of my clients here with us. This is Steph. Hi, Steph. How are you?
Hello, Krisha. I'm good. Thank you
Good,
for
good.
having me.
I'm so grateful that you're here because you're being super brave and courageous and vulnerable and sharing with us what are the signs of dating a narcissist. So we've just worked together, for a couple of months, and in that time frame, while working on other things, so we're going to talk about your whole entire journey here.
Yes. Yes.
You discovered that you were with this narcissist and
Yes.
started to recognize the signs of like that were there since day one, and working through all of that. And you have since in like 10 weeks exited, 12 weeks, something like that, exited the
Yes.
relationship, right?
Yes.
And now
Yes.
you're on the path of like
Healing.
starting a new life, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you. And you wanted to come on here. You agreed to come on here because you really want women everywhere to know more about this, right? Um, I think it's so important. And I'm recognizing I struggled with this as well, like in terms
Yeah.
of narcissistic partners. But what I'm also realizing about this is, which is really interesting conversation, part of this is that the narcissistic personality isn't just in romantic relationships. I'm
Oh, it's
noticing it in like friendships and even
parents.
like business things and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
it's in all sorts of places. If you are somebody who is vulnerable
If
to
you're a
being.
pleaser.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna stop
Yes.
talking now, but thank
No,
you.
it's totally okay. And that's and I love that you're talking about it this way too, because I felt almost blindsided when I realized how prevalent the behavior is and how easy to spot now. But and that's what it was. It was like this, now that I understand completely what those behaviors show up as, and they're just behaviors, it's a behavior pattern
Yeah,
that's so easily recognizable, but but if you don't know it, you can't see it. And
right.
this relationship, we'll talk about it obviously, but it destroyed me almost. Like I was, when I came to you, a mess. I couldn't even articulate. I couldn't come up with a thought. I thought I was going to the doctor for depression medication, anti-anxiety medication. I got tested for ADHD. I couldn't function. This relationship ruined me almost.
Yeah.
And I just went, I need to get this message out there. Like people need to know that this is how they show up, and this is how they destroy you, and you need to protect yourself. And so if I can share like a little bit of what I went through, and if it somebody else goes, oh my God, and if it just stops one other person from having to go through this, I will just be so happy, because
Yeah.
it's awful. It's awful.
It is
Yeah.
awful. And again, this is like everything that I talk about on this podcast is not taught anywhere else. Like this
No.
is the kind of stuff that we need to learn through experience,
Yes.
or, like from books and stuff like that. Like we should have some sort of like narcissist 101 in school, like how to spot
Totally.
this kind of behavior, right?
Honestly, though, like to even go deeper, I think the answer and the anecdote actually is learning what a healthy relationship is,
Yes.
because
Yes.
that's what we haven't been taught.
That's
And
what
then we would easily spot all the unhealthy behaviors, right?
yeah.
But that's the whole issue. Like, and that was, kind of the starting for me too, is like, what does a healthy, what even is that? Because I've never seen one.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
like, the movies don't tell us what a healthy relationship
Nope.
is. Those are bullshit. In
It's
fact, those are
all
all
a lie.
narcissistic. Those are all narcissistic relationships if
It's
you
so
break them
true.
down.
It's all in that toxic masculine, toxic feminine. It's all
Yeah,
victim
save
mindset.
me.
This is
So
why I
like this,
cannot watch it anymore.
and now when I see men posting like this soulmate bullshit on their Facebook, I want to call them out and go, this is tripe. This is bullshit. This is not how relationships work.
It's
There's no
not.
such thing as a soulmate. And if you actually understood the psychology of a healthy relationship,
Yeah.
you wouldn't come into a relationship with that bullshit, because it's bullshit.
It's
And
bullshit.
it creates, it does, it creates this sense of specialness to your relationship that
Yeah.
truly isn't there. It
Yeah.
isn't. And I'm sorry for anybody who thinks they have a soulmate, but that it's not how it is.
Yeah.
And it's not, you
Yeah.
know.
That's why I'm like, be your own soulmate, right? Because
Yes.
seeing that in another, it's like, yeah, no, it really concerns me when I see people like, oh, I finally met somebody and they complete me or whatever it is, twin flame
No,
this and all this stuff. And I'm like,
no, that's not how.
okay, but like, are you solid? Like, are you complete? Do you know who
Yes.
you are without another person? And like, I'm not judging because
You
I
can't.
like am
You can't.
part of that like whole paradigm. I watched all the movies and really had like
Yep.
a very skewed view of what
Me
sex
too.
was like and
Me too.
relationships, right? And it was just
Yes.
like, oh, wait, it's not that?
It's
Oh,
not that. Me too. That was the, like, honestly, the biggest discovery of, like, I was my whole life that, always looking for relationship, the
yeah,
serial monogamous, right? Where
yeah,
you're always like looking
yes,
to be in something. And,
yeah,
and if you felt that thing, the thing that you felt, oh, that means something. I
yeah,
feel thing for the person, and that person makes me feel really
yeah,
good and perfect. Okay, great. We have all these wonderful oxytocin and all these
yes,
emotions and all that. But that's just the chemical reaction. Like when you
yep,
break it all down, and you do, okay, that you need to step away from that because that'll tells you something, right?
yes,
But we
yeah,
are we are we are told that that means something, that all of that
yeah,
instant connection is
yeah,
something. But to be perfectly frank, when you have an instant hard connection with somebody, that's when you should back away,
yeah,
because that's very likely your wound.
yes,
um
yeah.
that's I've learned this now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So why don't
So
you share with us like where you were at when we first started working together, and then we're going to go into, like your journey, or it's literally been like 10 or 12 weeks, maybe a little bit longer now because by the time we're recording this, but
yes, yes,
I mean,
yes.
like when you came in, I want you to say it in your words, but just your growth, like I'm like, wow.
Really? Okay,
Yeah, of
I
course.
don't.
Of
Well,
course, right?
I'm happy. I feel so
Yeah.
much better. Like I was
Mhm.
so, like, I remember, like, the way my life had been. I felt like I was in a constant state of confusion. I really didn't understand, and that is the cycle of narcissistic abuse. They create that in you. They use a lot of gaslighting. So when you try to talk about problems, they'll turn things around and
Yep.
make it all about you and not about them.
Yeah.
And so it's just this constant state of confusion and blah. So I was a mess.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I felt like when I came to you, I just couldn't form thoughts. I couldn't do anything. I was just like having this feeling of self-doubt, and that I couldn't do anything right, and that I'm 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 just I can't do anything right. Like, that's literally what I thought. I
Yeah.
cannot do anything right. And that's where I came. I need some growth. I need some grounding. I need to figure out what the hell is going on in me. Like, why am I this way? And that was, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it,
So you came in and we started working together. So like I'm curious, just for anybody listening, like what was like, why did it take you as long as it did to reach out for help? Because you'd been in this for a while, right?
long
And I
time.
think this is a really important conversation because a lot of women, myself included, right? Like I'm not separate from this. I've just
Oh,
grown through it,
yes,
right? That's it.
yes,
And a lot of women sit in this for a really
yes.
freaking long time,
Way
right?
too
That
long. Yeah.
misery, that depression, that sadness. So, what
Yes.
took you that long in order to finally reach out and say, okay, I need some
I
help
need
here?
help.
Like, what
I
was
need help.
stopping you from doing that?
Um, I think there's that sense of not really knowing that there was something really wrong. You know what I mean? Like, there's like that I didn't there's that sense of not truly understanding that the way I was being treated was actually abuse.
Right. So you're
That was that.
yeah,
Yeah. And then there was probably some embarrassment,
yeah,
because when I
yeah.
kind
Shame.
of started this relationship, I thought I was woke. I thought I knew I got shit going on. No, I got nothing going on.
Well, that's not true.
But you know what I mean? Like yeah. So there was some embarrassment too about where I'd come. Like I felt like I was failing in everything, and that's embarrassing. I felt embarrassed, like to have to admit to not being able to get a job, not being able to get out of bed every day, barely functioning, like being this shell. Like it just ugh, it was just heavy. And everything about doing anything felt impossible. Like I couldn't, I retreated from friends. I retreated from family. I retreated because I literally felt alone. And then I didn't want to feel alone anymore. So that was, I guess, probably I mean, I need to get out of this. And I saw you. And we're doing this. Yeah. But I need to get out of this. And I knew, in our years that I've been following you and watching you and seeing how you show up, I'm like, that is it. Like, that's the embodiment of confidence. And I'm like, I just had this, like, I need to talk to Krisha about this, and that this is it. We're doing it. Right. But I didn't understand what it was that I was missing in my life until I started talking with you. So it was through that journey that I saw a lot of things that I didn't see before. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's go into that. Like, thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. And, you know, there's no, first of all, I just want to say, that, you know, so we can understand this. And for anybody that's listening, that embarrassment, that thing, it's shame. And it's a really dense emotion. You don't really realize how dense shame is until you start to work on it. Right.
Yes.
And it's the
Yes.
lowest on the vibrational scale, according to David Hawkins.
Yes.
And it can cause things like feeling depressed and a lot of really heavy
Heavy.
heaviness,
Yes.
right? What were you
Yes.
saying? You saw an image of like rocks or something. Tell me more about
Yes.
that, about how
I
it felt
saw
for you.
it. That's exactly what it felt like. So I saw this image. It was an artist installment, and it was a woman's shape made out of rocks and wire, and the woman was kind of hunched over like this, like down in this kind of a position. That's what it felt like. That to me, that's what it embodied. I'm like, that's what my relationship with him felt like.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Heavy.
Like just like ugh,
Yeah.
like everything was impossible. It was so hard. Like every conversation, every interaction, everything left me exhausted. And
Yeah.
the mental energy that I was putting into like him was just, I think that's probably the other thing too, is like I'm putting so much mental energy into trying to figure out why our relationship isn't working. I was journaling and then I was like, okay, I'm going to work on me. Because that's the only thing I can change in this situation is me. And that's what we're going to do. So,
Yeah.
hence coming to you. and I'm like, I can't be in this state of mind anymore. And that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've
So
got
yeah,
kids too, right?
I got 2 kids. Yeah. And that and 2 daughters, which frankly to me was like, I really wanted to make sure that they had this really solid understanding of what makes a healthy relationship. And I wasn't modeling that for
Yeah.
them at all.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
even just the conversations that I've been having with my girls,
Right.
like since this has been so expanding, and just to hear them
Mhm.
like understand and echo some of the things that I didn't realize they saw, but they did, and they
Yeah.
knew. And I'm
Oh,
like,
they
oh,
see
okay,
everything.
they're smart. Yeah,
They are smart. Yeah. Yeah. They
so
see everything. Yeah.
it's helpful that way. So I'm like, I think there's that, they're so happy, which makes me even go, wow, why, like my kids are excited to like get out of this situation too, like, wow,
For
that's
sure.
bad.
Yeah. Because
Right.
they're pure too, right? I know they're
Yes.
older, but they're pure.
Yeah.
And,
Yes, they are.
for them also, like it's heavy, right? Seeing that
It's
energy, it's all energy, and that energy is really, really heavy. So
yeah.
let's move on to you were saying that when you finally like got that, oh my God, I need to reach out for help, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and you started to see things, right? So talk to me
Yeah.
through that. Like what did you start to see, and what did
Yes.
we work on that allowed
Yeah.
you to be able to
Yeah.
see these
Oh
things?
my gosh. Yeah. So the biggest aha for me in our working together was understanding what self-worth truly meant. Because we talk about, people go on, I'm like, I thought I loved myself just fine. I'm like, I go get my nails done, I go to the
Right.
gym, you know what I mean? Like that sort of like, I show up every day, I do my job, I'm a good human being. So therefore I love myself. Like, but I don't think we actually, well, I know now that for the most part, humans don't actually understand what it means to love
They don't.
yourself.
Nope.
So I was, for my entire life, I realized until you and I started working together, I was looking outside of myself
Mhm.
for other people to tell me I'm worthy.
Yep.
Everybody else. Do you like me? Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. Like that's all it was. That's literally, oh, I must be a good person then. That's literally how I lived my entire life. My thought processes, my decision making, I embodied that person that didn't actually have an inner compass of her own. And
Yeah.
now I see why I got myself into the situations that I got myself into.
Yeah.
So with that lens, I was kind of able to go back through the history of my relationship, and I started to kind of pick it apart a little bit and go, oh, well, now that I feel this way about myself, I might have actually handled something a little bit differently at the start of my relationship. And in tandem to this, I just want to say too, I was listening to podcasts on what actually is a healthy relationship, how you have healthy heart-centered conversations, how you can have conversations where you honor each other's boundaries and you're respectful. And so I was really working on like, okay, how do I show up as the best way that I can in this relationship? Maybe, maybe it's me. I've been, letting him walk all over me. If I have stronger boundaries, then maybe we can work through this and, regain our closeness. I'm just, that's kind of how I felt about it all. Right. And so once I started kind of applying this through the lens of this self-love and trying to have conversations with my partner about what was going on, that's when I could see the typical narcissistic traits that come out. I was getting gaslit. I like when I would tell him that he hurt my feelings, he'd get mad at me for being mad at him. Like just shit like that. You're like, what? And so that was kind of where I started to go, whoa. And then the more I kept trying to, every time I felt like this is a conversation that isn't sitting well with me and I want to talk about it, rage, or he'd cut me down, or I'd get punished in some very, but it wasn't, that's the thing about this particular type, and we should maybe talk a little bit about narcissism too, is that it was very, covert. He's a covert narcissist. So it was in ways that weren't outright like yelly, screechy, but they would be like demoralizing, or he demeaned something that I said, like things like that, right?
Right. Like more on
Yeah.
that passive aggressive side of things,
Yes.
where it's
Yes.
calm and sometimes,
Yes.
and you're just, yeah, my first husband was like that. I was just like, I was like a rage machine when trying to communicate with him. And he was like, why are you raging or whatever? And it's like, because there's like, this is insane. And I'm not
Crazy
a
thinking.
rager. I'm like
No,
for
but
peace.
it makes you crazy.
It
And
makes me
so there,
crazy. Yeah.
and that there, and when you go through like kind of like the narcissistic sort of things, when you start to learn about it, that is their tool. So when you try to bring up something that's going to require some sort of depth, or for them to go deeper than what they are capable of, that's what happens. They'll circle it around. They'll bait you. They'll bring up something that they know is a hot topic for you to try and get you out of that thing. And so once I could see the behaviors for, oh, you're baiting me. Ah, okay, well, I'm not going to bite. And so as soon as I stopped reacting in the way that he was used to me reacting, that's when I could see the whole veil dropped. And I was like, oh, that's what I'm dealing with.
Yeah. And how like kind of exciting but terrifying at the same time, right? Because it's like, oh my God, like I have
Yeah.
allowed myself to be in this position, but at least you were starting to have some answers now, right?
Yes.
Like you were like,
Yeah.
it's not, I'm not going crazy. It's not just me. Like I don't have to fix. Yes, you need to work on, we all need to
Of
work on ourselves,
course.
love
Yes.
ourselves. And to your point,
Yes.
you're right. All of those things are self-care. That's not
Yes.
self-love.
That's
There's
not
a
self-love.
very big difference between those two, right?
Yes.
As now
Yes.
you know, right?
Now I know.
Now
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
yeah, manicures and bubble baths, okay, cool. But if you are not like inwardly taking care of your own inner needs,
Mm-hmm.
then it's just self-care. It's not self-love. So, oh my goodness. Oh, so with,
Oh, and I want to, and the
yeah,
boundary setting thing too, like that was like literally like talking
right,
like kind of all in the self-love thing.
yeah,
Like I didn't realize that because I didn't have that self-love, I was like this, I thought I was like this easy going, easy to get along with person. But what I really was a human being who had zero boundaries and basically let people, for the most part, you know, and especially if I cared for you, then I gave you all the chances and all of the excuses in the world because you're probably good and it doesn't matter. Like that's sort of, but then letting all of my boundaries being crossed. And that was probably the biggest aha ever, was realizing that I didn't even have any. I didn't even know how to create one. So, you know, and how to do that. So that was very helpful too. The language and just sort of hearing the way that you managed your sovereignty, like your sovereignty. And I didn't really understand that either. Like, what is that? What do you mean sovereignty? I have that. No, you didn't. You did not. So yeah, it's just like, it all came, it just clicked for me, you
mhm,
know, in our work together. And there's absolutely no way that I would have been able to recognize what was happening if I had not done that work to love myself. There's no way. Like that the anecdote to narcissistic behavior is loving yourself.
is loving
That's it.
yourself.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I love that. So were there any like particular things that we did or talked about or you experienced or whatever with our work together that like were just like bam, 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 like the catalysts for you, like anything specific?
Ah,
I mean, I think
oh,
just the action of putting your hand up and saying, okay, like I
yeah.
notice this every single time with my clients. Like as soon as they say yes to working together,
Yes.
immediately whatever that is that they've been wanting or desiring starts to manifest. It starts to,
Yes.
because it's like just saying yes to it
Mhm.
is permission.
Yes. Do
It's
you know?
like, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I just realized the biggest thing that I learned, that my biggest aha, it was the body, is
Oh yeah, right.
is you really helped me get back in touch with what's happening in my body.
Right.
And that was something I had ignored for a long time. And then if
Yeah, of
you
course.
really get to the root of it, your body is you. Your body is your self-love. And if your body is your truth, and that's what you taught me. That's what you taught me. And I didn't know that before. I literally didn't. I'm like, this stupid thing. I don't know, no, but whatever. Like you would ignore, I would ignore. And I think all of us do that. We
Yep.
ignore those things that our body is telling us. We all have that internal warning system. We have it,
Yep.
and we choose to ignore it
Yeah.
because we make excuses for certain situations because we really want them or whatever it is, or it's our training doesn't allow us to see that we're being mistreated because of our conditioning through our whole entire life.
Yeah.
So, you know, even as a kid, you know, getting mistreated by my mom, I get that same thing, but you know, that's what it is. Or then you get into a relationship, you don't listen to that thing anymore. You just learn to not listen to it because you're conditioned. But you helped me realize that that is me. That's my source. Like that feeling is me. And I didn't know that. So that was your gift. That was your gift to me.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I'm just sitting with that because you know, this work is never done and you know,
Oh, it's
it just
constant.
keeps going layer upon layer, right?
Yeah, no, I'm fixed now. No.
Yeah, yeah, right. Tick done. Thanks, bye. Yeah.
Wow.
There's no fixing. It's just evolving,
It's
evolving,
an evolve.
evolving,
It's an yes. And
right?
that was like So when I first started I was actually, when I first kind of discovered what was happening, I was almost excited to go tell Terry, because I really did think he was my partner. I really
Right.
did think he wanted the best for me. I'm like, oh my God, like when you get to see that it's just your patterns too, and we can work on our patterns
Yeah.
together. And
Yeah.
oh my God, it's just
Well,
patterning.
that's like all
Right.
relationships do.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's normal. So I'm like, can we not as a couple go, wow,
Yeah.
look at how we behaved before. This was really unhealthy. Let's talk about, like, let's imagine now, because we've learned more about ourselves and we're more emotionally mature. Like, how would we handle that now? Like things like that. But that's when I realized I wasn't dealing with a person who had a healthy mindset,
Yeah.
because he would get like ragey when I wanted to talk about
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
so yeah, so that was another good big red flag in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So there's a couple things that I want to say about this. Is, this work is so fascinating. There are really a lot of layers to our inner psyche, our intuition, our higher self, our patterns, right? Our ego, our inner judge, our saboteurs. Like literally, there's like 1,000 people living in our minds, right?
It's true.
And the more we work on it, the more we start to process through the layers of the conditioning and the
Conditioning. Yeah.
traumas and things like that, right? We start to clear in order to, and then we start to get closer and closer and closer to that root
Yeah.
core wound, right? And core beliefs.
Yes.
And there's a physical sensation in the body that comes with all of that, because like you said,
Yeah.
our subconscious, our trauma, everything, our intuition, everything lives in our body. And when we
Yes.
experience so much trauma, like you did when you were younger, right? And I did too.
Yeah.
Um, and so many people do. We have a tendency to shut that off, because
Yeah.
when we're younger, there's nothing we can do about it.
No. Yeah.
It's like,
It's your defense.
we know this is wrong,
Yeah.
but we can't do anything about it because this is our parent, or this is somebody who cares for us, or something like
And
that.
they say that they love us. Well, they hurt us. They
Yeah,
love us and they hurt us. So
right.
that is a mind fuck right there. But
It's a
anyways.
huge mind fuck, yeah. And so, but it's also a body fuck, because, and not in
Yes.
a good way, because
Yeah.
I had to go
Not
there.
in a good way.
um,
Okay.
yeah. Because we've now turned that off, right? So this is a
Yeah.
lot of people, women, when they come to work with me, men too, there is that shutting off from here down, right? And there was for me
Yes.
forever as well, right? It's just like, it's too painful. And so when you're starting to do this, what happens is our body sends those signals, right? Our body keeps the score, as the book is called,
Yes.
and it warns us, and it gets sick, and it does this thing, and it does that thing, and it produces all
Yes.
these chemicals and all this kind of stuff. And I find that there's like this sense of it's like a sense of terror
Mhm.
that raises in us when we recognize that we're not being treated well.
Yes.
And for me, how that manifests is literally like, I feel so awful and terrified, because I don't, it's almost like it is part of that shame piece, because it's like,
Mhm.
holy shit, I can't believe that allowed that to happen. And then
Mhm.
I don't know what to do about it, because I'm not
Yep.
equipped on how to fucking handle this stuff,
Yep.
even as like
Yep.
a 45-year-old woman or
Right.
whatever, right?
Yep.
And so it's this tendency for us to shut that piece off, because it
Yeah.
feels too big and too terrifying for us to be able to deal with and manage. Then
Yeah.
that loop of well, I'm okay, or on balance things are all right, or we
Mhm.
blanket it in some way,
Yep.
and then
Justify,
we
justify, justify.
justify,
Yep.
justify, justify, and then
Yep.
we get
Yep.
into that shame spiral, right? And that shame spiral is so, we're so used to that feeling, that even
Yes.
though at a conscious level we're like, we don't want to feel that way, it's also what our body is most familiar with.
Yes. It's home for us. Like that was
It's
home for
home.
me. Like that's what I thought
Yeah.
relationships were almost. Like
Yeah.
I
Right.
didn't really have a good model for what it should look like, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing. I'm just like, I'm just in awe of you. So because like, really, when you did come in those short few weeks ago, Like it was that shame spiral. It was that heaviness. It was those rocks. It was everything. And you showed up and you showed up and you showed up,
It was
and
hard.
I know it wasn't easy.
It was hard. It was really hard.
It
Yeah.
was hard for sure,
Yeah.
right? So what kept
It
you
was hard.
going through all of that? Like, what do you think was like, why did you show up for every call?
I just, I showed up because I had to. Like it was just, there was just not a, there wasn't even a notion in my head that I was not going to show up. Like that
Okay.
was it. Like I
Yeah.
had to, like this was my, I knew that this was the right direction for me and I had to do this and
Yeah.
I knew I could do it,
Yeah.
and I think it was that, sense of, if I have to get through this, because if I can't get through this, then what's going to happen to me a little bit too, right? There is
Right.
really feeling like really lost, and you were an anchor, so I needed that anchor weekly, and I needed that,
Yeah.
like, all the other stuff that was kind of going on, in the meantime, was really, really difficult and really draining and really just killing me.
Yeah.
But coming back to those conversations were just, it was, I needed that. I just did at the time, and it really did help so much. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It creates momentum, right? And it's a
Yeah.
space where you're like, okay, I'm not going crazy. Like this is like I'm experiencing something here. Um,
Yeah.
so tell us the signs then of dating.
Mhm.
Let's go through that
Oh,
really quickly, right?
yes.
So what are the
Yeah.
signs that you're dating a narcissist? Because
Yeah.
that you had that epiphany and you were just like,
Ugh,
holy shit, he was
I
love
didn't
bombing
know.
me and this, that,
Love
and the other.
bombing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So talk about
Yeah.
that.
It was. So that was like the hardest part, was like kind of having to look back at what I thought was my perfect love story of meeting
Right.
this man who, after I was divorced from another narcissist. Imagine me just dating all these narcissists. That's really weird. Anyways, but he came to me. We met on a dating site, and just really handsome, and he had this like almost like nerdy, sweet demeanor, and just seemed like so beautifully like vulnerable, and meeting him, he just like overshared. I didn't realize at the now like at the time, but now I realize that is such a big red flag. But he overshared all these emotions like very quickly right off the bat, wanted to like get really connected, really close, like super quickly, and he was over the top with like how like the compliments and the attention and the interesting thing is they over validate you when in the love bombing phase. Like every single thing you do is the smartest out of anyone they've ever dated. You dress the best. Oh my god, I love how you organized this. Oh my god, you're so every single thing I did was like literally the like this little ego of mine was like pumped all the way. Oh yes, I just ate it all up, all of it, and then
What are
like,
your patterns?
oh, right. And so he hooked. And so that's what they do. They love bomb you. It's just they overload you with way too much. And so, had I known something like that, like, one of the things that really struck me as a very pivotal moment, it could have been pivotal had I been a confident woman, was when, or if I had self-love, because I was confident, I just didn't have self-love. When he said something like, I just know that you're the one for me. Like, this is it. I know it. And I'm like, I looked at him like, you don't know. And it was quite early on. Like, I'm going to say like maybe 3 weeks into our relationship. And I'm like, you don't know that. I'm like, you barely know me. He's like, no. He's like, I know. And then he talked a lot about how much work he had done on himself and how he was like this real guru when it came to relationships. And I wasn't, like, I really wasn't. And so I looked to him as like this authority on everything. So yeah, lots and lots of love bombing. They do not, they don't give you a lot of space. And when you try to create boundaries, they get quite upset with you when you do that. So,
And did that happen like really early, like in that love bombing phase?
well, I didn't really push back on him, to be honest. And if I had, oh yeah, the pivotal moment. Yeah. When he said, I love you and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you don't know that. But I, like at that moment, had I said to him, look, you can't, you know, he would say stuff like, oh, this is what he would say to me. When I said, you can't, he's like, you know what? He's like, it's your programming. So he would use what he knew about me to convince me that what I was thinking wasn't accurate. So he'd say, he's like, you're just using, it's your programming. You don't trust me because because the way that you're programmed, you're just pushing me away. You're pushing away what could be like a good thing. Like, just trust me. I'm not going to hurt you. Like, and then he would say, choose love, not fear. And that was this, like, basically, which translated into, listen to what I'm saying and don't listen to your own fears. But a good, healthy man would have recognized and said, whoa, 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 okay, you know what? I see that you're, you know, feeling a little uncomfortable and probably coming on a little bit too strong. You know, I hear what you're saying. But no, he pushed and wanted to make sure and flooded me with all that. So that was love bombing. And over the top, over the top. Like, I want to be with you every moment and all that kind of stuff. So that was that.
Yeah.
Big red flag. And then they all have a sob story. So they all have a sob story about how they were the victim in all of their past relationships. So when they talk about their past relationships, they were the hero. They tried so hard, and that nasty bitch or that crazy bitch, they're all crazy. Every single one of their exes are crazy bitches.
Such a red flag. Whenever I've been on a date with a guy and he's said anything bad about his ex, I'm like, I'm out.
Yep, exactly.
Like,
the
bye.
same thing too. Yeah, that is just exactly like, if you're using this dating platform and we're talking and you're gonna like use this to tell me what a piece of shit you think your ex is, then we're not together. Because that is like the most ugly, low energy. And again, I didn't realize it. I'm like, I thought we were sharing, but then, you know, the more I, you know, kind of look back on this story, I'm like, all your stories were bullshit. It's just, anyway, so yeah, they have a sob story, and it's not an actual real sob story. Like, it's bullshit. They were definitely not the abused ones. They were definitely not the ones that, you know, whatever it was. So he had a very big sob story that he carried around, and he used that to gain empathy for me, to be like, you know, you can't ever hurt me because I've been the wounded one. I'm just like you. I'm wounded too. And, you know, that sort of a, you know, sweet, innocent, I'm wounded too kind of bullshit story. Yeah. So, you know, it was like probably the biggest ones for me was that. And like, so those would be like anyone who's trying to get too close to you too soon, uses things like, soulmates and, you know, oh my God, I just knew that the moment I laid eyes on you, like those kinds of things are actually fantasy based. They're not based in reality, and probably not someone that, you know, a healthy, if you have a healthy mindset, it's not something you should pursue. It will be bad for you. And now I know.
Yeah. And I also want to touch on this, because you can have that expression from a man or from a person in a healthy, secure relationship as well. So the key here is that you know who you are. Right. So what was happening in that scenario was that you didn't know who you are. You were in your pattern. You were in that state of, oh my God, like, even though, yes, you were confident and all that, but he was the answer to your patterns, prayers.
Totally.
Right.
Oh yeah, he talked to my wound like you wouldn't believe.
Exactly.
I'm getting validation for just being me, and you love me just for being me. Oh my God.
Right. And so
and he was so vulnerable.
Yeah. There's an addiction to that. So it's like, ooh, if I walk away from that, what will happen? I won't have this validation anymore. It's false scaffolding, right? Because it's like he's building you up because you were not built up to begin with, right? For reasons that we said before. Like, we're not taught this stuff. You know, we have our childhood wounds, and we are just not taught how to build our own self-love, right? Well, we are starting to be now. Kids are starting.
We're getting there. We're doing better as a collective.
I think we are now. For our kids, for sure. Because women like us are just like, fuck this shit and working on ourselves.
I'm telling everybody I know.
Teaching kids, right? Yeah, like, I teach my boys, and you're teaching your girls, and
I am.
Like, but also just being a living example of, no, this is boundaries. This is self-love. This is you know, that bullshit detector and that intuition, right? And so you didn't have that connection to that part of you, because it
Not
had
at
been
all.
muted from
Yep.
all those years, which is what we were talking
Program.
about before,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I can totally see how this was happening. And then in our work together, that was basically like that
It
rip
just,
you
yeah.
open
Yeah,
and
you
just be
did.
like,
Look at
and
this stuff.
no, but in the most loving way. And like,
It was. It
it was
really was.
like, yeah, and it was
It
like,
was beautiful. It wasn't. It wasn't like that, but it was like, let's look inside. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, let's look inside and find who you are,
Yes.
right? What is pattern? What is truth? What
Yes.
is a bullshit lie you're telling yourself? And
Yes.
what is
Right.
your soul?
Yes.
Right? Like, what
Yes.
is your worth? What do you want to
Yes.
do? Who are you in this?
Yes.
What is your intuition saying? What is your intuition saying? What is
Yes.
your intuition? It's like the
Yes.
most annoying question I ask my clients.
But it's
What do you want to
amazing.
do?
Yes, totally. And then I just was realizing that as the kind of the relationship went on, so then they get into like that they idolize you, put you on the pedestal, but then they'll knock you off of it, and it's a really bad
Yeah,
fall.
for sure. Yep, because you don't have that inner scaffolding, right?
No,
And
no.
so my point on that is just to open to remain, keep that, because it's always like, keep your heart open, right?
Yes,
Keep your heart open in this, right? We're not going to close our heart now because we've been wounded in this way. And
I
like,
know.
before we got on here, you were talking about you're angry, right?
I'm
And I'm like,
angry.
be angry, right? And
Uh-huh.
you're like, oh, but I feel bad, like I should feel some compassion for him. And I'm like, nope, we're not there yet. We are
Not there
not
yet.
at that
Yeah,
forgiveness stage
yeah,
yet. You are
yeah.
just out of this. You need to
Yes,
feel the feelings that you're feeling,
yes.
and because you need
Thank
to
you.
bake that in so that, but not become bitter, resentful,
No,
and heart
no.
closed.
It's like I'm allowed to be mad because what he
Totally.
did, it was shitty. It was really shitty. And
Yeah.
I'm actually like, it's almost shocking to learn that somebody that you've been with for so long has such an appalling lack of self-awareness. Like I really, you know what I mean? I just didn't know. And now I guess I was the same, but then
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not, but he's not even willing to come with me to understand his own self. He sees himself as fine, and
Right. Yeah.
it's tough.
Which is also a point here too, is that anybody who's in this, um, which I wanted to loop back on actually, because
Mm-hmm.
your behavior around wanting to work on this with him is
Yes.
actually signs that you do know what a secure relationship looks like. You do
Yes.
understand what communication is. You do understand what love is, right?
Yes.
And but you can't change another person who's not there, right? And the way
No.
the relationship was entered, it's not to say that relationships like this can't heal and grow, and that you can change together, right? Like, it's
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
entirely possible for a narcissist to
People
go, holy
change.
shit, I'm
People do
doing
change.
this, right? Because
Yeah.
that's his pattern.
Exactly. And that's just the whole thing. But with narcissists, unfortunately, like the research basically says, for the most part, unless they're willing to look at the actual behaviors
Yeah.
and separate themselves and go, oh yeah, I behaved like that and that really sucked,
Yeah.
and I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But they don't even know how to do that. They don't even know how to do that.
They have no
And
awareness.
that's the problem, and that's when you start trying to have those conversations about their behaviors. They won't engage with you in the same way that someone who has a healthy mindset will engage with you. And you'll just go around in these circles that make you want to like what you said, and just rage a bit, because it's like, you kidding me?
Yeah. And the more you work on that inner knowing and that intuition and that self-love piece, right? Now, like, you'll be able to spot that narcissist quicker, because there will be those signs, those ticks, like, but not coming at it from, because I'm like, we have wisdom.
Yes.
Right? It's wisdom.
Yes.
It's coming from wisdom. It's not coming from like
That's
scared or close or anything like that, because that's just perpetuating the issue, right?
It's just to protect myself. Yeah, that's all.
It's just like, okay, oh, here's this fascinating, interesting person that's come into my life. I feel really good. I know what my truth is. I know what my inner knowing is. And this comes from that repeated inner work, repeated. It's not one and done, right? Like, as you know, like, it's just this constant, look inward, look inward, look inward, right?
Yes.
Who am I? What am I? Who am I? What am I? What is it? What's right for me? What's wrong for me? What feels good for me? What's a
Yes.
no for me? What's a yes for me, right? Knowing that over and over and over again, speaking those boundaries, seeing where people push you back, what happens when you push even more, right? Like
Yes.
being brave in those things. And then because a secure, healthy man will still love bomb, but it will
Yeah,
be
of course.
healthy because you're gonna love bomb. Like we love bomb and we're not narcissists, right? And it's like
Yeah.
love bomb in the way of, oh my God, you're amazing. I love
And that's
you.
okay.
You're
That's
so
normal.
wonderful.
That's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfectly normal. Love bombing is an intense pace that doesn't take into consideration the other person. That's really all it is. It's like you're moving at the pace that you want to without making sure that the other, you're just mowing over the other person's fears of things. And, you know, that's, it's crazy. And you're like, you know, it's like assigning something to a relationship that isn't there yet. You know, that's what they do. Like they create this a narrative around your relationship that isn't real. It's not true. It doesn't exist yet. They want it so badly to exist, but it doesn't. And they don't let it naturally unflow, like, or naturally flow like a healthy relationship should. Those things take time. And yes, you can like find somebody that you like absolutely adore and think they're amazing. But like I love you, Krisha, but I'm not gonna like text you 25 times a day to remind you that I love you. And I love you so much, I can't stop thinking about you.
Just for the record, I would receive that. My capacity to receive is huge, and I will just text you back. I love you too, baby. But I get your point.
I love it.
I get your point. You have this like most amazing reflection on you. It's a star.
Oh, I do? Oh, that's fun. Oh, do you want me? Should I close my blinds?
No, it's amazing. Okay. It's like you've got a star on your face.
I'm a star today.
You are. I love it. I love it. Okay, so we're coming close to our time here, and we've covered a lot, right? So what would you? Okay, so let me just recap here. We've covered what the signs are for a narcissist, right? We covered where you were at emotionally and all of that when you first came into work with me. We talked about, you know, like what was going on with you physically and how like listening to your body and the self-love, all of that just was like those pieces were missing, and you were recognizing that in me, and you were like, that I'm recognizing that it's healthy.
I want what she's having.
I want what she's having. Right?
Literally, I'm like, whatever that is, like, give it to me. I need that.
Yeah. And not everybody's willing to go there, because it's like, yeah, sure, I can teach you that, but this is what it's going to take. And it's like, oh, really? No, thanks. I'd rather just stay in this unconscious pattern. Okay, cool. But you know, you got to do the work.
There's something about like, I know for some people there's, and I think I have that too, that kind of like a bit of a resistance to things that feel a little bit woo or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, but understanding that getting in tune with your body has nothing to do with that. That's just our natural state. And all of those things are what we're supposed to do. That's what we do. Like that is actually healthy behavior. And kind of getting out of that weird, I don't know why I had that in my head that was going to be too woo for me.
Conditioning.
It's just right. And then I'm like, that's what we're supposed to do. Like, that's how we get in touch with ourselves. That is literally the way out of these things. And I didn't know, but so just that stuff too.
No, that's an important thing to say, because the woo-woo side of things is like, that's where the answers are, is in the woo-woo work. Like there's only so much that the cognitive, it can only take you so far, really, truly. It can't take you. There's that 20%, that last 20%, that last stretch, right? That when people are in the personal self-development realm, if you've been in therapy forever, talk therapy, cognition, like lots of reading, lots of, you know, listening, mind, it doesn't solve the problem ever. It cannot. because
Nope.
the problem lives in the body. And
Yeah.
this is
Yes.
what's been conditioned and actually burned at the stake.
Yes. Like we're witches.
Oh yeah. That's
Yeah.
what happened, right? Like it was
Yes.
our innate ability as women and men even, but as women
Yes.
to know this stuff
Yes.
that was burned at the
Yes.
stake because it was too crazy. And so
Too
now
crazy.
we're undoing that, like hundreds and
Yes.
hundreds of years of don't listen to yourself, don't listen to yourself, don't listen to
Don't
yourself.
listen to
Let's
yourself.
listen
Yeah.
to something outside of yourself, right? So we're dealing with that at a collective level and at a personal level, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
of course you feel
Yes.
weary around woo-woo stuff because we're
Yes.
conditioned to feel weary around
Just
it.
feel like,
It's like, if
but
it's not a science thing, then it doesn't exist. It's like, okay.
well, but yeah, right. So, but I'm glad that I just like kind of went, okay, I'm just going to push all that kind of whatever aside, but that's it. Like you need to do it. And it does kind of feel like a little daunting, right? But you need to do it and get through it. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So what would you say to a woman right now who's listening to this and maybe is where you were? Like
mhm.
you've now exited that relationship
Yes, I
a
am.
couple
I'm
weeks, 2 weeks
on
ago.
my way to my new home
On your way to your new
in 2 weeks. I move in and it's the most beautiful. It like as soon as I drove up to it, I'm like, this is home. Like I knew it was
home.
home and I wasn't sure if I was going to get approved. And then I got approved and I'm like, it just like, I'm like, I just knew everything is like falling into place.
Yeah,
I feel lighter. I feel happier. I
yeah,
feel so much better.
yeah,
So I think for anyone going through it is, there's another side and you don't have to like, just recognize when your boundaries are being crossed, like just feel how that feels and find the tools to speak up for yourself and set proper boundaries, and then just believe in yourself because all those things that you're feeling, they're true. That was honestly the biggest thing was when all the pieces came together, all of those feelings that I couldn't
yeah.
reconcile and that emotion, that stuff in there, every time I felt it, the reason I felt it was accurate, but I didn't know at the time. It was
Right.
dead on. So
Yeah.
trust yourself. That's it. That's all I have to say. Trust it. It's right. I now believe, I'm a believer. It is accurate, that thing, if you listen to it. You might not know why, but go find some help to figure out why you're feeling that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Again, I'm so like in awe of your journey and how far you've come in such a short amount of time, right? And it just goes to show like when you're really ready to let go of a pattern, that it's not easy. Like it does feel like you're ripping yourself in
Devastating.
two. And it's like hard decisions that need to be made sometimes with
Yeah.
this, right? And it's
Hard.
terrifying and everything, but look at you now, like you have a star on your face, like
I have a star on my face. And I actually, I do not have fear. Like I had so much fear before about everything and it's
yeah,
gone. Like I
yeah,
thought that I wouldn't be able to do anything without him. I thought that I
right,
needed him to be successful, to do anything. Like he had me convinced that I wouldn't be able to run my business without him. He had me like all of this kind of
right.
stuff. What are you going to do? How are you going to run your business without me? Like just,
Wow.
things like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the fears that I had were a byproduct of the narcissistic abuse and not truth at all.
yeah.
So releasing myself from that has actually like removed the fears.
Yeah. And so now you're in a state of relief. Now you're in a state of like, okay, good. You're
That's
taking
good. Yeah.
action and all of that kind of stuff. And, now you're in a really beautiful place to go even deeper with
Yes.
who are you? Like you don't
Yeah.
have that noise in your head anymore
No.
now, right? And so this knowing that you have, now you can cultivate that to go even deeper with that, right? And just like become your own juicy best friend. And like, just, oh,
Yeah.
there's so
Well,
much more richness like available
yes.
for you now,
Yes.
letting it seep in and just be like, okay,
Yes.
because life's still going to throw you stuff, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so now it's
Yeah.
going to be like, all right, how am I going to handle this next thing? How am I going to
Yes.
handle this next thing? Right? It's like
Yes.
you working on yourself. This is what I always say, like the shit is going to hit the fan no matter what. It's
Always.
just,
Yeah.
are you going to get caught up in that or not?
Am I going to get into a tailspin? And I now know that there's no way I'll get into a tailspin again. Like, I do know this. I will not get into a tailspin again because I feel very grounded in who I'm grounded in. I understand when I'm being mistreated. I think I'm still doing, the next level of work in what exactly makes me happy. What things do I want to invite into my life now that I've let go of this, because I've really spent so much time focusing on him and not on myself. So that's probably the next thing. But yeah, it's that, right? Like,
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for being here. This is like, I think it's going to help a lot of women to
I hope
see
so.
that they're not alone, right? Like, and that no matter, like, how, do you mind sharing how old you are?
Oh, I am 51.
Like,
51.
for real.
51.
No way.
I think I'm only 12.
No way. There's no way.
I know. I feel like I think I'm like my brain. I didn't get the right brain. I got like a 12-year-old brain. And
I feel like a teenager too. I'm just like, I'm like Benjamin buttoning myself like every day. I'm like, oh, I think I'm like so young now.
I know, right? Oh man, that's so funny.
Right? Which is awesome. It's such a good feeling. Like, you're not getting older, you're getting younger.
Yeah, I do feel that. I'm like, wow. I'm proud of the wisdom that I've gained through this, to be honest. Like, I didn't realize how much I had, I've been missing by being kind of asleep, a little bit unconscious for most of my life,
Right.
So thank you for helping me see.
I love it. It's like no longer the eyes, it's the third eye.
Yeah. Now.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? I love it.
It literally is. So
yes. I love it so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for all of this. And yeah, if I can just if one woman goes, oh my God, this is my relationship and I need to fix it, then I'm so happy, because nobody should feel that confused. And it is literally one of the worst forms of abuse, to be honest. Anyway.
It's pretty bad. Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate you so much, as a woman, as a goddess, as a client, and as an advocate as well for other women to see the signs and, do whatever it is that they need to do in order to exit relationships like this, right? Because it is that kind of abuse that you're just like, wait, is this actually happening?
It's insidious. It's insidious because it's not obvious. And that's the hardest thing about it. And because we've been conditioned to get these little digs and the little jabs and the little things that we've kind of gotten our whole lives, we don't really notice it as abuse. And then it kind of is, though. And then once you start to lose your entire being, you're like, who am I? It's like, you wake up one day and you go, who am I? That's your sign that something is very, very wrong.
Very wrong. Yes. Exactly. I love it.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I love seeing your face, and thank you so much for everything, Krisha. You're just my heart.
Oh, I love it. And thank you to you, dear listener and watcher of this podcast. Please reach out if you are struggling in this kind of way and you need some support in order to be able to see clearly and listen to your own intuition, engage whether or not this is a healthy relationship for you or not. What is a healthy relationship? How can you start to cultivate a healthy relationship with yourself and eventually with a partner as well? So please make sure that you reach out if that's feeling good for you to do so. And thank you again, Steph. I really appreciate you being here and sharing all of this wonderful information for the people on the podcast. Thanks again.
My pleasure. Thank you.